Hey, welcome to Planetary Pennies, Astrology Overview and Look at the month ahead of October 2020. Before I start, some people have been telling me they're finding it difficult to find their particular sun sign, and they don't particularly want to read or listen to all the other sun signs, which I fully understand, unless of course you know your ascendant or your moon sign, and then you can also look at those for yourself. So my lovely tech guy Jerry has just given me a brief description so that I can explain to you how you find your particular sun sign. So if you look down here at the bottom of the video here, you should see a little arrow. I think at this point it's probably pointing upwards, but it has something written on it that says show more. Now what you have to do is you click on show more and a description box drops down, and then you will see like an index for all the signs. So you'll have, Leo, and it'll start with the overview for October plus Leo's astrology. So that way I'm hoping it'll be a lot easier for you to navigate around this channel. Okay, so with no further ado, and I really hope that helps to explain it, I will continue with October's overview. So we are now in Libra season. So, when the sun moves into Libra, it kind of focuses us much more on the relationship aspect of life. So that would be the relationship aspect of, for example, our one-to-one close friendships, our one-to-one intimate relationships with family, with more, our wider friend circle. I also think, because when I looked at the chart, and I'm going to go over that briefly in a minute, when I looked at the chart for October, there is actually a pretty strong emphasis, in spite of the sun being in Libra, there is an emphasis on relationships. And I think this is on a rather grander scale, because I think this is actually on an international scale. Relationships between countries, relationships within countries, between communities. My sense is, because we have Mars retrograde, and it will be for quite a while in Aries, and Mars is making this harsh, difficult aspect to the big boys, Saturn, Pluto and Jupiter in Capricorn, which is in the 7th house of this October chart that I've set up. And what that tells me is that I really feel governments and world leaders are going to really struggle with keeping people safe within the confines of lockdown, because I suspect there's going to be a real movement underneath, or underground if you like, of the masses, the populace, getting very frustrated with lockdown, getting very frustrated with the fact that they are being so damaged financially in their individual businesses. They are losing jobs, and so there is going to be, I think, a real surge towards this kind of unrest. And my sense is that as these planets, that is Pluto, Jupiter and Saturn, start to move forward again in Capricorn, because Pluto actually starts to move forward on it moves forward on the 4th of October. So we will then have these three big boys going direct in Capricorn. So that's Saturn, Pluto and Jupiter. Now remember, Jupiter expands, and Jupiter can expand negative stuff as well as positive stuff, because it's like Jupiter is kind of neutral. So what I want to say with this is that, Pluto is pushing us towards transforming the way we actually govern our planet. It's pushing countries to transform the way they administer their governmental duties. It's on such a broad scale. You see Saturn that is also direct now, because Saturn went direct at the end of September. You know, Saturn is about governments and order and law and restrictions and boundaries. And I really feel that there is going to be quite a tension throughout the month of October, because as we move towards the end of the year, when these planets, in a sense, meet up much more tightly, because Jupiter, and again, remember, it expands what it touches. That's great if you've got a winning lottery ticket. And maybe we'll get some of those this month, who knows? And let's hope I'll go and buy one. And it expands what's negative and what's dark as well. So, you know, we also have to remember that we're moving towards the US elections. And we've seen in other years how tense things get throughout the world as we observe what's happening on the United States stage in these kind of events that have to unfold. So what I'm saying on a more personal level is, be mindful of your close personal relationships. Be mindful of short tempers with each other. I notice, for example, on social media, one gets a lot of kind of attacking going on between people. You know, there's the pro-masks against the anti-masks. There's the pro-vaxxers against the anti-vaxxers. I mean, people, we've all got to try and live together in harmony. And at this point, does it matter on one level who's right and who's wrong? It's just that perhaps we have differences of opinion. And I think if we can respect each other's differences of opinion, as we all strive towards building a stronger future and somehow pulling together the dramatic change that this planet is kind of going through at the moment, if we go with that, because, you know, when you when a branch holds itself firm against the wind will snap it and break it. If it bends, then it can survive. And I think one of the underlying symbols for me about this month is that what we have to do is actually bend with that force of the wind. We've got to bend with the force of Saturn and Pluto and Jupiter moving towards their final kind of meeting in November, I think it is, when they finally all get together. The other thing I want to talk about before I move on to your individual signs is that we have a Mercury retrograde this month. Now, please don't fear Mercury retrograde. It can be a good thing, because it can give all of us, including the government, second chances to tweak things, to get things right this time. You know, as countries throughout the planet are beginning to see that they may have to enforce larger lockdowns again because of this kind of second wave that, I don't know whether the first wave ever went away, to be quite honest, but we have this kind of surge in virus cases. It feels like, hopefully, every single government throughout the world will use the vision of hindsight. I mean, we all know that 2020 is going to have that stigma on it forever of 2020 hindsight. And but you know, this Mercury retrograde is helping that. It's saying, look, we can see what we perhaps didn't get right last time. Let's try and actually get it right this time, because that way maybe we can save lives, we can save jobs, we can save businesses. So that's the positive of Mercury retrograde. The sort of the more downside of Mercury retrograde, and Mercury's going to be in Scorpio, and he goes then back into Libra, and he doesn't go direct till November the 3rd. So we've got, from the 14th of October, we've got this Mercury retrograde period. Yes, we can expect delays in travel, but I think we know why, and I think we're all more aware that if we are booking long distance travel or even short distance travel, it may be subject to change or cancellation. And I don't think we can just stop living our lives because of all these restrictions. I think we have to learn to adapt. And by adapting, I think respect everybody's own individual wishes within that. And respect each other, because this Libra emphasis on relationship, I do feel is super important for October. You know, this Mars square to Saturn and Pluto and Jupiter, you know, there's going to be a lot of kind of sparking off and fights and arguments, and it's just quite tricky. I just want to look at what Uranus is doing, because Uranus is retrograde, of course, in Taurus, and I do think because Taurus is all about money and investments, this retrograde Uranus is going to see a little bit more instability again in the financial world and the sort of the economic climate, which is not what any of us want to hear. But I think there's a lot of nervousness around because of, you know, the fact that we're coming into winter in the Northern Hemisphere, and we are going to go through quite a challenging time. Now, I have talked a lot about October in this overview, but I just feel it's important to get these points across. Your individual sun signs will probably not be quite as long, but they will hopefully have the more direct information that you require to navigate your way through October. So before you go on to that, I just want to say thank you so much for tuning into my channel, watching my videos, and subscribing to my channel. If you've not subscribed, I'd be super happy if you could. That would be fantastic. And the likes and shares are hugely, hugely appreciated. And also, if you would like to book a personal one-to-one session with me for astrology or life coaching, or you'll probably find it's a combination of both, in fact, then my website address is in the description box underneath the video. I think it's also just written here in the bottom of the video. So that's all I want to say for now. And so until next month, enjoy your October horoscopes. Thank you. Hey Cancer, welcome to your astrological forecast for the month of October. And this is for the Sun in Cancer or for the Ascendant in Cancer. Also, if you know where your Moon is, that can also be super helpful to know that. Okay, so let's have a look. Well, in the overview, you probably remembered I mentioned that October is very much a month focused on relationship, relating on a small scale or on an international scale. And of course, for you Cancer, with the big boys in your 7th house, that's Jupiter, Saturn and Pluto, and you've had them there for, you know, nearly 2 years now, that's been quite heavy going for you in regards to significant relationships in your life, whether it's your nearest and dearest, your partner, your husband, your wife, or you know, just very good close friends. And it's usually an area of our chart where it is an important relationship, and we have lots of important relationships in our life. And it's Capricorn for you, so there's something about this that tells me you really need structure in relationships. You need to know where you stand. You need to feel secure, Cancer. You've got so much love to give, Cancer. And you don't give it easily, because you know, being the Cancerian kind of crab you are, you have this wonderful protection so that the outside world sometimes doesn't realize that inside there is a kind of soft center. So it has been a struggle for you, but I do feel that that is going to start to change. Okay, now what do I mean by that? Well, Firstly, because one of the big things this month is that Pluto goes direct, and it goes direct on the 4th of October. Now, the fact that these big boys are now going to all be moving forwards in your 7th house is really, really helpful for you. So they are going to be getting closer and closer together because, and Jupiter that expands everything it touches. Now that can be for good, it can be for not so good. So if relationships have been going through a struggle, then it's going to expand the difficulties that haven't been addressed yet. So you're really being given sort of like a final chance to get this addressed, to get it sorted. And so Pluto is also about transformation. Pluto wants you to transform. Pluto wants you to transform your relationships. It wants you to have better, more enriched relationships. And of course, Saturn there in Capricorn has also been saying, yes, but I want boundaries. I want rules. I want to know where I am. I want to know that I can have my crab time when I can just be crabby with myself on my own. So, you know, it's been, but I really do feel, because there's also, in your 7th house this month, we've got what is called the part of fortune. Now, the part of fortune is an Arabic part, and it's actually conjunct Pluto in your 7th house. Now, I think that's super cool. So there is so much help, if you like, from the cosmos to transform your relationships into something that can be just so much better. So try to allow the expansion that Jupiter brings to expand it in a positive way. Don't give up, Cancer, on your nearest and dearest. Really don't give up. It will improve. Now, let's see what else we've got going on, because we have actually, on the 1st of October, we've got a full moon, Cancer, in Aries, and that's going to be in your 9th house of in your 10th house. It's going to be on your midheaven in your 10th house. So this is super good, Cancer, for career, for work. So it could be that you complete a project which has been sort of long overdue being completed, and you'll feel a sense of, phew, I got there, I did it. So, you know, because Aries, remember, is a cardinal sign, so it's about initiating. So it really feels that you will feel much more able to kind of be effective where your work's concerned. Then we need to look at the Mercury retrograde, which is going retrograde on the 14th of this month until the 3rd of November. Now, don't be worried about Mercury retrograde. It's going to be retrograde in Scorpio, first of all, in your home area. Now, that's fine, because I think it's just going to give you a chance to, in a sense, get things ready for the winter, and maybe deal with things that have kind of got sort of, do you know what I mean? I actually feel you ought to be doing some sorting out of cupboards and drawers, because, you know, Scorpio does like to dig deep into things, and, you know, it's saying, you know, sort the man drawer out, or sort the bits and bobs drawer out, because I think you might be surprised what you find in there. It could be quite interesting. And, you know, the sort of all the cables and the sort of Nokia 6010 phones from, you know, a past eon. And then it'll retrograde back also into Libra. So that'll also give you a chance to dot the I's and cross the T's with regard to any documents or things that you haven't sort of, you know, been on the sort of in the in tray, but they're on the side of the in tray, which is the too hard side, too difficult to cope with. So I think go back to those, Cancer, and get them sorted. And then we have a new moon in Libra, again in your 3rd house, on the 16th. So that's great, because that's also going to give fresh impetus to communication, to thinking, and to relating, because remember, Libra is about relating. And so I do feel you're going to be getting on better with sort of neighbours and people in your sort of locality. And maybe in spite of the restrictions that we seem to be getting with yet another kind of, lockdown, I do feel that you will be able to create a social bubble with a good group of people where you can at least have some sort of time out and fun. Then we need to also move on to Halloween on the 31st of October, because it's another full moon. So we have 2 full moons this month, and this second one is what is called a blue moon, and it's in the sign of Taurus. Now, that's really nice because that's in your 11th house of hopes and wishes. So I think what this means for me, Cancer, is that, I think Halloween's going to be quite fun. I think you may be able to get together with a small select group of people and have fun. I think the full moon for you sees perhaps something you've hoped for in terms of, I do feel it's to do with investments or money, and maybe some money comes to you, something gets completed in terms of something you've been expecting. But I think you'll be quite happy with what happens with this full moon on the 31st in Taurus on Halloween. So on that not really very spooky note, I'm going to leave you now, Cancer, with that little bit of information for what to expect for the month of October. And remember, overall, it is about relating this month, and specifically for you, Cancer. Really work hard at your interpersonal relationships. And in the meantime, I'd like to thank you so much for watching your sun sign or your ascendant or your moon sign. If you've not subscribed to my YouTube channel yet, I would be really, really very, very grateful if you could do that. And you'll see that there's a subscribe button just underneath the video, and you just click on subscribe, and there you go, and then you get notified when I've put new videos on my channel. Also, I think it's on this side of the video as well that you should see my website address. And that means if you would like to have a one-to-one for astrology or life coaching or a mix of the two, because it will be that anyway, then I'd really love to meet up with you. In the meantime, thanks so much for joining me today, and I will see you next month. Thank you, Cancer.